An important piece of journalism that raises issues that should be discussed, a
Nope.
BBC spokesperson told Newsweek on Thursday. We have updated this article, published last week, to remove a contribution from one individual in light of comments she has published on blog posts in recent days, which we have now been able to verify, they continued. We acknowledge that an admission of inappropriate behavior by the same contributor should have been included in the original article. The article is about the experiences of lesbians who claim they have been threatened and shamed into having sex with transgender women, and the BBC has said they stand by it.
Hey everyone. So you're probably wondering why you're seeing me on an off day, and there's a very good explanation for that. If you've been paying attention to Twitter at all, there's been some developments in the BBC situation. You'll notice last stream, and as of today, a video went up talking about how BBC posted an article saying that supposedly, again allegedly, that trans women were coercing cis women into sex, and they brought up some anecdotal experiences, but nothing that was actually like real data or proof. And it just reads like TERF propaganda. That's just the reality. So the reason why I'm here today is for a couple reasons. One is that this is happening right the heck now. And so one of the things that we have to kind of be clear about is that for good reasons, I think people need to be aware of this. If you're not on Twitter, you're probably not going to be aware of the fact that this is happening. Additionally, for cynical purposes, right now, it's a thing in the algorithm, and I don't want to miss that by waiting till Sunday. Now, those are the sort of sillier reasons. The big reason, and this is the most important one, is I don't want to subject my chat or my partner to this. Zena and I have had a lot of conversations about this, and maybe it's because of my own history as a clinician, but I have a pretty strong stomach and a pretty sizable ability to not let shit get to me. And Zena tends to get very emotional. Tends to be very upset whenever trans women are threatened because inadvertently the first person they think of is me. And that's totally understandable. I would have a similar reaction. So we had a conversation today, and the discussion was I was going to do this on my own, and that way I wasn't just springing this on chat, and that way Zena could sit this one out. So before we get into any of the stuff, I'm going to do a content and a trigger warning for a whole host of stuff, including very described violence, transphobia, suicide, transmisogyny, really gross political manifestos, and just the worst as far as things going on. And I'm obviously going to have critiques and thoughts on this as we go. But I just want everyone to kind of be aware that this is happening. So I hope that makes sense. That's kind of what we're going to do is go through this. Please know if I missed any trigger warnings. Be aware, you're going into this. Be careful with yourself, okay? This channel has always been about trying to maintain a pretty good balance between telling things the way we see them and also being very conscientious of mental health. So my request is please take care of yourself. If this starts to get too much, get the heck out. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Just go, okay? But for anyone else, we'll dig into this stuff in just a sec. All right, everyone's still here? We're still good? All right, so be wary, we're going in. So, as you all know, last stream during Halloween, funny about spooky stuff, we discussed the BBC article titled, "We're Being Pressured into Sex by Some Trans Women," which was, as we deconstructed, just a meta dog whistle made of more dog whistles. If you could make an awful TERF Voltron, this is what this would be. And basically what it was a piece of garbage journalism that essentially used anecdotal stories by 2 or 3 people and didn't support anything with any data, didn't really give anything that was like meaningful or important, and it was just kind of the worst. Some stuff's happened since then. And so let's kind of wander into this. So first thing I want you to do is meet one of our major players here. This is Lily Cade. Lily Cade is an adult film star who is fairly well known in the adult film industry, and is also I have no other way to nicely say this, so again, trigger warnings for stuff. Again, all the things I mentioned at the beginning, and also sexual assault. She is accused of attempting to sexually assault multiple women. This is actually her apology, which I'm not going to read because I'm not going to platform her nonsense. And again, let's remember, TERFs by definition are jokes. The fact that this woman is accused of this and yet has the gall to say the things that we're going to go over in a bit is really comical if it wasn't so horrifying. Okay? So this is Lily Cade. Again, TERFs aren't my thing, but it's whatever. It's whatever. So then this happened. BBC source, Lily Cade posts rant about lynching trans women. Big content warning for descriptions below. So one of the people that was sourced in that awful and frankly completely dishonest article was Lily Cade. And Lily Cade is one, known for being predatory towards cisgender women. She is also well known for leaving the set when one of the scenes she was going to film was going to be with a trans woman. Now, let's be very clear. No one has to do anything. Consent's important. No argument. However, there seems to be a pattern with her. And the pattern seems to be she just seems to really hate women, but tends to take that out directly on trans women. Essentially, the idea being is that this person has, again, been accused of sexual assault. Again, accused, it's alleged, and has gone and done some really awful stuff. But of course, TERFs will choose any kind of hero they want. And so this person, by definition, seems to have some stuff going on. So I'll read this. I was lucky to find this synopsis. Where is it? There we go. This is from LauraKBuzz.com. Love Laura. Love Jim, Stephanie Sterling. Both cool people. Haven't had the chance to meet them, but they're cool. So, content warning for quotations of extreme transphobia. It's extreme. In the time since we published our initial open letter to the BBC regarding their article, We're Being Pressured into Sex by Some Trans Women, it has come to light that one of the interview subjects, Lily Cade, has posted several blog entries online actively calling for the lynching, death, suicide, and murder of all trans women. Now, I want to be very clear, this is not something I'm saying, YouTube. This is something that was said here. I am only doing quotations. Again, I want everyone to be careful with themselves. I know it seems like I'm hammering on this hard. Please, for the love of God, trigger warnings. She has called for the murder and lynching of several trans women by name, suggesting her own willingness to commit those murders of trans women, and made the accusations that all trans women are pedophiles, child groomers, and rapists who should all commit suicide. Well, in that first part, citation. Second part, no, we live off your spite. Or as all the idiots in our comments always say, cope. So the idea that trans women are some sort of perverts is a well-known, ideal, and it's something that has been used as a way to harm trans women for a long time. You use Buffalo Bill, you use scenes from The Crying Game. We're always duplicitous, we're always trying to hurt, we're trying to somehow get your children. It's literally just homophobia in a new package, right? There is no evidence to suggest in anything I've ever seen that any trans person is more likely to do this than anyone else. And I'm not going to say there isn't trans people that theoretically could do this, but again, they probably fall within the same ranges as the cis population, and it really has nothing to do with them being trans. So, sorry, Lily. What is it with people named Lily? Anywho, while her website is no longer online, as the hosting company WordPress found that the manifesto broke several of their terms of service, a member of the WordPress administration staff has confirmed the veracity of the posts. There is no evidence of the site being maliciously hacked to post the content, and the backend user data suggests that the author of the manifesto was the same person responsible for every other post on the site, which is verifiably Lily Cade. We can say with certainty that the following quotes were written and published by Lily Cade in the days following the BBC's defending of all the above mentioned article. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to do trigger warnings in the between it. Please, for the love of God, I'll be giving commentary as well. Take care of yourself. I know it sounds like mom's being overly concerned. This shit is awful. Okay? I have an installation to it because this is like my job, right? But if you are ooh so soft, please take care of yourself because I love you. You soft people, you're so good. Okay? And again, YouTube, just as a quick note, this is a quote. I am reading a quote. These are not the beliefs of the channel, and I am not spreading hate speech. Get it? Got it? Good. Lily Cade says, trans women are men. Trans women are the weakest, vilest, most pathetic men on earth. Too weak to even kill themselves, rather than control the horrifying shadow monster they are grooming your children to serve. The ones who kill themselves are the strong ones. Weak men serve the Dark Lord because it's the path of least resistance. So, immediately we have misgendering. Immediately the belief that trans women are not women, which is just nonsense. This is true, again, demonstrably both by the APA, the ACA, the AMA. Like, this is just goes against the whole plurality of data we have. Not to mention the lived experiences of trans people. Again, please read Julia Serrano's book, Whipping Girl. God, I cannot suggest that book enough. But in it, there's also this belief here that we're attempting to sort of groom children. There's no evidence of that. Now, if you're talking about children coming out, no, we are attempting to let kids be themselves. You introduce language, you introduce an idea by exposing people to these things. They can then make clear, rational decisions about how they want to be. The only people that ever want to stem and stop any type of intellectual discourse, the only people that ever want to get rid of any kind of notion of informing kids about, the possibilities of their identity, be it gender, sexual orientation, etc., almost universally are conservatives and fascists. Right? The former, because often, got to keep kids dumb, just for reasons. And on the latter, because, again, there's this belief within TERF circles that there is this thing called rapid onset gender dysphoria that affects kids and causes them to because of social contagion, transition. There is no evidence of this. And Lippman's evidence, as far as her research, is complete garbage. It's sourced out of surveys from anti-trans websites, including Mumsnet, for Christ's sake. So, again, nothing in this is true. The idea that we're weak men, again, goes into the notion that men that aren't behaving in a masculine sense are by definition somehow deviant and pervert, pedophile, whatever fucking thing you want to do. Again, this is trans misogyny, right? So let's move on. Again, trigger warnings, transphobia, and a whole host of other things, right? So harm, violence, transphobia, trans misogyny, suicide. Please be careful with you. I'm going to hammer on this. I'm sorry. I know I'm being irritating, but please be careful. Lily goes on. Cancel this so hard that no man dare walk the path of the trans woman public again. Enough is enough. Lynch Caitlyn Jenner. Lynch the sisters Wachowski. Lynch Laurel Hubbard. Okay. I guess we're doing that. Cool. Lynch, Fallon, Fox. Again, these are the words of Lily Cade, not myself. Make these men stand up as men you all know they are and hold them accountable for their shame. Your fear of the truth has shoveled thousands of children down the hole of Buffalo Bill's basement so he can harvest them for their skin. So again, we have the immediate assumption that Buffalo Bill, a non-trans character, is somehow related to trans people. This man's a serial killer in the books. Neither the book nor the movie ever say that he's a trans person. In fact, they both go out of their way to make a point about it. The other thing is that, again, this notion that we are in any way, shape, or form hiding from our shame. I mean, that's what we did when we were men. We're hiding from the shame of being dysphoric and in bodies we don't like. I don't got much shame now. I just I like being me, right? So the idea of this way that this woman is talking, this is the mark of a fascist. This is the mark of a white supremacist. This is the same language that's used against African Americans. This is the same language that's used against any marginalized group. This woman is calling for the deaths of several prominent trans people, trans women, mind you, and this is a screed. This is the same thing you'd see from a freaking mass shooter, right? I'll go on. Again, YouTube, these are not my words. These are Lily words. Please refer back to all the trigger warnings I mentioned before. Lily goes on. Pedos get the wall. Homos get the rope. I don't know what that is. Where the fuck are the Marines? Where the fuck is the Army? Directed as a call for violent military action against trans women. Okay. Regarding Jazz Jennings' mother, I thought pedos got the wall. How was this woman allowed to raise children? This woman sins against the law of God, against the law of nature, against the sacred duty of motherhood, against her own bloodline. Ooh, we'll come back to that one. For attention. How many other little kids were chopped up because of this bitch? Hang this bitch. I'm not going to say that part out loud, but I'll say group forced naughties before you hang her. How dare she sacrifice her own children to the cult of fame? Scum-sucking dog. Sexy time fluid. Guzzling, shit-eating, lower than the worm hellfire monster of a woman. How could you put this on TV? Why haven't you killed these people yet? Again, this is Lily's words, YouTube. They're not mine. Wow, there's a lot to break down here. So, get the wall is a term we often hear from a lot of red fascists, right? Tankies and shit like that. And so the problem is that I'm basically just disgusted with the term when I see it. It's the idea that this group just gets shot. There's no such thing as due process. There's no such thing as rehabilitation. It is the mark of totalitarians, fascists, and the like. We've talked about all this before. This is the language you would see from any conservative, from incels before they go on, allegedly go on mass shootings. This is the same thing. This person is sick. And I'm not making a psychoanalysis. I know I have been accused of such by other people named Lily, but the joke about this is that I'm not making that. I'm saying that as a personal view, my own morals. This person is sick. They're gross. They're somebody who is trying to weaponize everything they can against a group of people who are marginalized. And what really sucks is this person's a sex worker. I really hope and generally want that sex workers and trans women can be unified because, one, tons of trans women are sex workers, but also because we're some of the most vilified people on the planet. You'd think this person would get that. But let's get into the content. So as far as Jazz Jennings' mom, go Jazz Jennings' mom, super cool. Your kid stated to you and felt safe enough that they identified differently than they were born. Cool. You did the right thing as a parent. Well done. If you've oversold it on TV, I don't know about that, but I don't really, again, if the kid's being harmed in some way, I don't know. I guess I have a problem with that. But as far as the idea that this kid is trans, no. There's evidence to suggest kids can figure this stuff out as early as 4 or 5. We know this. Just there seems to be an inborn knowledge. Some people come to that early. Some people come to that much later. There's also probably some effects as far as socialization and culture, right? it was hard for me to want to come out back in the late 90s, early 2000s, because the entire situation was basically just gross. I only had movies as a reference, and those weren't great, right? So, FYI. Regarding the rest of this, goes against the laws of God. Again, this is a sex worker saying this. Like, again, you do not get to quote to me Christianity or any other faith as far as that when that faith is actively against you. Like, the idea that anyone can throw this to first stone and say that they've sinned is nonsense. Because there are people in evangelical circles that would throw you under the bus, but they would work with you temporarily to screw over trans women. Interesting that how you guys pick your allies. She goes on to say something about the sacred duty of motherhood. I don't care. This ooh-woo, my, motherhood is such a powerful and wonderful thing. You know what? Sure, but I don't care. I just don't care. The idea is the reason I don't have much stock in the idea of like the sacred duty of motherhood is I've met trans women who are great mothers. I've met, people who throw away that supposed sacred duty and do awful crap. The idea that this is somehow sacred is nothing. Again, as we've said on this channel before, the only prerequisite to having kids is just knocking it out. That's it. All you need, you don't even need to be good at it. You don't even need to necessarily have penetration. You just need that. You just need the basic materials. And so this idea that this is a sacred duty, like, no, it's not. It's just basic biology and the way species work. I'm sorry. Get over yourself. She goes on to say something about bloodlines. That's just super weird. That's just fascist talk. That's blood and soil kind of crap. The idea that, like, you have to worry about your blood. Like, there's huge amounts of humans on the planet. Even if the idea that trans people were sort of, like, sterilizing themselves, and granted, some countries do that shit. Even if that were true in all circumstances, which it absolutely is not, the fact of the matter is that, no, sorry. I don't care about bloodlines. I don't care about race. I don't care about these things. They don't matter in the grand scheme of things. I care about these things as far as how they negatively impact people's lives. I don't like the construct of race because we use it as a way to weaponize against various people and hurt them systemically. I don't like the construct of gender because I think we need to be liberated from it and recontextualize it. Gender is play, as we've said on this channel. So this idea that, like, we're going to care about bloodline, like, this is just fascist talk, guys. This is just fascist talk. She goes on to say how many little kids were chopped up. Again, unless you're talking about some butcher in some kind of alley, the fact of the matter is no child in single digits. In fact, the matter, most young teenagers have never even been seen as far as transition or anything like that. Now, there are some kids, if, in their early teens, are taken to the doctor and it's decided based on a group of individuals, usually their psychiatrist, their therapist, their doctor, that being their PCP, and their endocrinologist, will come to a decision with the parents, and sometimes in those cases, they'll put the kid on hormone blockers. The hormone blockers don't really do anything problematic. They just kind of stop the kid from going through a puberty they may not want. And then eventually they may help them go through the puberty they want. So if the kid changes their mind, you just take them off the blockers, no harm, no foul. And if you want to keep them on those and give them, the corresponding other hormones, that's perfectly acceptable. But no kid under the age of 18 has ever gotten a surgery. If you have, there's only circumstances I could find that are based on essentially like going to butchers, going to people that are violating the law, violating like actual guidelines of dealing with, especially WPATH guidelines. This is just nonsense. This is the scare tactics that's used by conservatives. This is the scare tactics used by TERFs. This idea that children are being negatively affected. It's always, what about the children, when there's no evidence to suggest this. Littman's paper on the idea of rapid onset gender dysphoria is entirely based on what about the children, when she pulled the data from absolutely nowhere useful. This has been torn apart by Florence Ashley. We've shared it on stream. One of these days we might go through that thing in depth. And I am going to have Kira, one of my mods, on soon, and we're going to go through Littman's new thing about detransitioners, because guess what? It's also nonsense. So let's keep going through this. So again, she says all these horrible things about this woman. Again, I'm so sorry, Jazz Jennings' mom. This is awful. No one deserves this. No one. Lily goes on. This is the softest pedophile cult that has ever existed, and it's brought your culture to its knees. Can you show me evidence? Citation? Is there citation on any of this? No? If you left it up to me, I'd execute every last one of them personally. So not only is this person, who is an accused rapist herself, now asking for the death, mutilation, and sexual assault of trans women, and saying that all trans women are, in fact, somehow harming children despite posting no evidence, no nothing. So we'll go on with this. This is what Laura says. We can provide archived versions of the full post, but we believe that these excerpts, can't read today, clearly demonstrate that she, in a very literal sense, is accusing all trans women of being pedophiles and rapists who should be put to death, either by her hand or by others through her call to action. If a single prominent trans woman had written anything of this nature about a cisgender woman, there would be a public outcry, and it very likely would be used to paint all trans women as violent and dangerous. True. So, sorry, I'm not going to bring up that person. Really trying. Anyway, but here, the BBC has not even acknowledged that it's happened, despite already being under intense criticism and public scrutiny. In addition to this, she again admits to being a rapist on the website prior to it being taken down, further supporting the allegations against her. Allegedly. Again, trigger warnings for sexual assault, transphobia, and a whole host of other awful things. If a rapist, this is what Lily says, Lily Cade. If a rapist is someone who is accused in public of sexual misconduct, then I am a rapist. So too are 3 of your last 4 presidents, the men who sit in your halls of power, the men who make judgments over your laws. So are all your heroes, and you know it, and you don't care. If a rapist is someone who pays women to have sex that they don't want to actually have, then I am a goddamn fucking rapist, and your world is run by rapists. Again, this is Lily Cade stuff, YouTube, not mine. For the love of God, please don't demonetize me. So this is her nonsense. This is what she's saying. She's admitting to this. Again, let's be very clear. Well, they're this too is not an excuse. It is in no way an excuse, and in fact, it's actually not. It's not in any meaningful way it's not a really good deflection at the fact that you just admitted that you're that. So let's move on. Lily, sorry, Lily Cade, it's kind of an admittance of guilt. Just saying. So let's move on. The wonderful and beautiful Laura K. Buzz goes on. It has also been uncovered that on 11th July 2018, damn British, Lily Cade made a post on Tumblr regarding having sex with people under the age of 18. Dear God, Lily Cade has previously linked to this Tumblr account in the past, including the more recent on the 11th of July 2018, which makes it likely that the post is authentic. This post is not an admission of the crimes by Lily Cade. It is a piece of fiction, but it demonstrates years-long obsession with gender dynamics playing into sexual encounters with people under the age of consent. This is an issue that seems to predate this week's blog post accusation that trans women are part of the pedophile cult. So I will put this in the links. I'm not going through that. All right? I'm not going through that. So let's get down to this point. Oh, that person's cute. Anyway, so it is very clear that the lack of coverage of the Lily Cade abuse allegations, her apology, and the subsequent posts by Cade contradict the BBC's statements to media outlets, and their initial response to those who complained to the BBC, claiming that the piece was well-researched with unbiased sources and not platforming transphobes and transphobia, except for the fact that the author of the thing literally took down their Twitter 15 minutes after it posted. Like, this bitch knew. Like, she knew it was gonna be lambasted because it was a hit piece. It was a year-long hit piece made that's full of inaccuracies and no data. It's just dumb. Okay, let's get through this, for the love of God. Either through malice or incompetence, I like to think both. The BBC's piece has platformed violent and dangerous people as impartial subjects of trans people as a wider group. The BBC has stressed that they spent a long time working on this piece, prove it. However, it has only taken a week to highlight the dangerous biases of at least one of the interviewees. They said, BBC that is, the article was carefully considered before publication, went through a rigorous editorial review process, and fully complies with BBC's editorial guidelines and standards. Maybe there's a problem with the standards. Anyway, the journalist's work involved months of speaking with many people and about the topics and the articles, including testimony from a range of different sources, and provides appropriate context. No, it doesn't. It doesn't talk to any real trans people. It talks to, well, excuse me, I'll amend that because I don't want to say I'm misgendering. It talks to one trans person, if my memory serves, and that is Rose of Dawn, a woman so deeply obsessed with being the good one that she's deep-throating a boot. And she's not even good at it. If you look at her content, it's literally, what if Blair White had less money and class? It's really weird, right? You notice the difference in these? I am never going to necessarily throw another trans woman on the bus, but I will say that people like Rose of Dawn and Blair White really do make me wonder, how do you be inclusive to trans people who are absolutely harmful to everyone else? I get the idea that you don't, and I agree in most cases, but it's still really fucking hard. Are you so convinced? Are you so utterly scared that the cis people will be upset with you that you're gonna do this? I mean, Blair White literally lied on a political compass test. She's a lib. But nope, she's a conservative. It's bullshit. Full stop. And so Rose of Dawn is just the discount version of that. I know everyone's made that joke, but it's still good. So let's go on. The beautiful and talented Laura K. Buzz continues on. I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but let's see here. We got BBC has not acknowledged the allegations or the admittance of those assaults or anything involving that Lily Cade. Let's see. Additionally, it's been claimed by Twitter by Chelsea Poe, a trans woman, that she was contacted for this piece. However, her response were not used in the article. Wow. In particular, she claims that she made Caroline Lowbridge aware that Lily Cade's abuse allegations prior to the piece's publication. Wow. Okay. So I'll leave this for you guys to read, but yeah, Lily Cade is an absolute monster. I know I throw that term around a lot and people like to give me shit for it, but this is the thing. She's a monster. This is the behavior of a person who is unwell and a threat to people. Just simply that. If this woman's walking around literally every time she sees a trans woman, she's just seething. This goes beyond just the transphobia of saying that trans women aren't women. This goes into a level of homicidal rage and fundamental inability to respect the decisions and the rights of the other. This is fascism. This is an ideology that is based around ultimate control. This woman wants anyone that is outside of her worldview, which is, by the way, incoherent, like all fascism, to just be fucking eradicated. And that's really weird. Right? Is anyone else of that opinion? That's really weird. That's not okay. So let's look at some of the other articles we got. We've got BBC source, Lily Cade posts rant about lynching trans women. Talked about that. Goes into all that stuff. We looked at it. Let's see. What else do we got here? Talks about the string of sexual abuses. Again, the trans woman they cited or chose to leave out. By definition, was just left out and had informed Carolyn Lowbridge, the author of that piece of journalism, of this. And then again, Lily Cade was posting these kind of hateful manifestos until they breached terms of service, right? The fact of the matter is we're dealing with a couple different things and a couple different issues on these fronts. Again, lesbian porn star platform by BBC calls out for mass execution lynching. Again, same. Second verse, same as the first. Again, same thing. These are all got different pieces of it. These are all important. I'm going to put them all in the source document. I'll also put in there Lily Cade's apology. I don't think it's really important. But again, considering what she wrote and then this, this is like a Shane Dawson level apology, right? Like this is like you already reported on yourself and this apology happened. Okay, fair enough. You do you, girl. And then we have this. This came out today as of, again, 1 p.m. BBC removes Lily Cade contribution after transphobic remarks spark outrage. Can't read. The
BBC has acknowledged inappropriate behavior by anti-transgender activist Lily Cade and removed her contribution to a controversial article published last week which many have labeled transphobic and dangerous. Pressure is continuing to mount on the broadcaster to issue an apology for the October 26 piece titled, "We Were Being Pressured into Sex by Some Trans Women."
Okay, so we know all this. However, having removed Cade's contribution to the piece, the broadcaster maintained that this is an important piece of journalism. No, it's not.
This is an important piece of journalism that raises issues that should be discussed, a
Nope.
BBC spokesperson told Newsweek on Thursday. We have updated this article, published last week, to remove a contribution from one individual in light of comments she has published on blog posts in recent days, which we have now been able to verify, they continued. We acknowledge that an admission of inappropriate behavior by the same contributor should have been included in the original article. The article is about the experiences of lesbians who claim they have been threatened and shamed into having sex with transgender women, and the BBC has said they stand by it.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So I am not going to say that this has never happened. I don't think that's a defensible position, and the reason I say that is because all demographics have shitty people in them. We just know this. This is how it is. But to believe this is like a rampant problem is just not true. It's just not. Find me evidence. Right? If you're saying this is an objectively truthful thing, find me evidence. I want it peer-reviewed, and I would like it replicated. I doubt that's going to happen, but I would still like to see it. So here's the thing. One, this ignores that trans women date each other. There's trans lesbians. I'm fucking transient. It's a thing. But it also ignores the fact that many lesbians have great relationships with trans women. Like, there's an entire subreddit, like r/actually lesbians. It's adorable and super trans, like, affirming. The problem here is that when we're talking about lesbians, the issue we're talking about is not just all lesbians. We're talking about the lesbians that are cited through this who are TERFs. That is, these are women who immediately believe that trans women are not women, and thus any attempt to interact with them is considered some sort of violation or terrible thing or whatever goes on in their fucking heads. The thing is that, well, I can say that, genital preference is a thing that is complicated, right? On this channel, we've talked about this, and generally my rule of thumb is genital preferences are fine. If there's a particular type of genitals you like, go team. Like, you're allowed to have those preferences, and you're allowed to say no. Consent's a big thing. However, just for sake, we have to be really clear why you're saying that. If this is just a simple attraction issue, no harm, no foul. Some people just don't like those parts. Right? But if this is based on your transphobia, that is, you are immediately reducing and ignoring a trans woman's actual lived experience and actually way of being, that's not okay. That's not saying you have to date her or fuck her, but it does mean that you have to acknowledge that the reasoning coming from it is not just about your attraction or not, it's coming from bigotry. This is no different than super straight, the nonsensical made-up orientation that is based on a false premise. Remember when we argued with Vosh about gender, Vosh made the argument in that video that essentially, if you have to believe, self-ID and identification is true in the case of xenogenders and pronouns, then you have to believe anything that people come forward with is true. And the pushback I've given to this is that No, because super straight's based on a false premise. It's not built on sexual attraction. It's built on the notion that trans women aren't women. We can take identities at good faith, but they do have to be demonstrable. If someone says they're whatever gender, to some degree, I want to know what that's like. I want to be a convert. I want to get it. But if it comes from a place where they're ignoring or even invalidating my fucking identity, nah, fam, it's not cool. So this is the problem. The people that were cited in the BBC article were TERFs. And it's not to say that there isn't the chance that something like this could have happened once or twice. Again, everyone can be an asshole. Some people are trans and theoretically could also be assholes. But the idea that this is rampant is just not provable. It's just not, because there's no evidence to show that. The BBC is doubling down on it because the BBC over the last few years has shown itself and made it very clear that it is incredibly transphobic. This is true with a lot of media and press out in TERF Island, the UK. I am not super knowledgeable about that place, but it seems like the BBC has a very strong desire to paint trans women as monsters or attempt to invalidate our experiences. The thing is that to say that, the experience of lesbians who claim they've been threatened and shamed into having sex with trans women, the question it comes down to is, you would need to look at those individual contexts, you would need to see if there was a coercive element, and you would need to demonstrate that. Because again, I believe in rehabilitation. I also believe innocent until proven guilty. One of the things you always have to reconcile whenever we're talking about this kind of stuff is, I believe that we should believe victims. If someone says they've been assaulted, I'm going to believe them. This is because one, it's the right thing to do based on my values, but it's also, to me, a way to deal with a positive error versus a negative error. Why can't that term come to mind right now? False positive versus false negative. So the thing here is that we know demonstrably that most accusations are true. We know this. The data seems to put it somewhere between 3 to 6% of false allegations. And you have to remember that that's out of all the actual allegations. And we know that only 50% of people come forward. So that's actually that might be a little much. That might be lower. So the way this kind of works is that I believe that we have to believe victims. If these women say something happened, I'm willing to take them out. I'm not willing to follow that line of thinking. But the reason I'm doing that is because I believe all victims, because mathematically and morally, it's the right thing to do. Now, how does that align with my innocent until proven guilty view? Well, it's really simple. If someone is accused of a crime, in this case, sexual assault, I can believe and support the victim while not attacking the accused. I can hold the accused in a pocket dimension in my brain where it is possible they did this, but I don't actually know. I think of all the things that come from a rational stage of development, innocent till proven guilty is a pretty fucking good one. And as such, this hate mob that kind of comes out on this stuff is really rough. So to me, I'm willing to listen if someone says something's happened, but I don't think this is the case. Nothing data-wise has shown this. And this seems like this is very cherry-picked, specifically pulling from lesbians that also happen to be TERFs. So it's very hard to guess and actually understand the veracity. That's the issue. So I want you guys to understand that you can hold both. You can hold the accused in sort of a Schrodinger's cat null space, and you can also believe people. But when it comes from a source of a person, well, one, somebody who would never be with a trans person in the first place, which kind of puts a weird spin on things, but also has a political agenda to screw trans people out of rights, it makes it hard to believe. Right? You can reconcile this stuff really easy. It just takes 5 minutes of thinking. Come on now. Let's see what this thing says.
As of Thursday, November 4th, an update has been added to the article that reflects the above statement the BBC provided to Newsweek. Many people have also complained about the article's inclusion of quotes by Cade, who posted online advocating for violence against transgender women and called for them to be lynched. Cade herself has faced accusations of sexual assault by multiple women, Pink News reports. Referencing the accusations on her blog, She wrote, "If a rapist is someone who is accused in public of sexual misconduct, then I am a rapist." In the days following the publication of the article, Cade published a blog post that advocated for violence against trans women and called them evil, rapists, and predators.
There she is. Just... transphobia makes people so fucking ugly. Sorry. A number of people who filed official complaints to the BBC about the piece are now saying the company was dismissive of their responses. Well, of course they are. They're fucking transphobic. Bertie Lee Kennedy, I don't know who this is, but they seem to be important as they have a little thingy. Absolutely terrible response from the BBC to my complaint about their TERF propaganda. They said that the article went through rigorous process. Right. Let's see. We got, the dear and wonderful Laura K. Buzz. Nice. This is not, these responses are awful. The BBC just doesn't care. Yeah, the BBC just doesn't care. I need everybody to understand this. Like, when we're talking about these types of situations, what we're really talking about is having to make an analogous connection between the behaviors of trans-exclusionary radical feminists and fascists. We've made this connection. In previous videos about Dave Chappelle, we've talked about how there is an undercurrent of conservatism within Black communities that seems to be incredibly homophobic and very patriarchal. That is not to throw the rest of the African-American community, the Black community, under the bus, but it does exist. The Tariq Nasheeds of the world exist. We just have to acknowledge that. And in the same way, these types of conservative and frankly controlling mechanisms exist in a lot of other groups. In lesbians and the LGBT as a whole, there are TERFs. And while many straight women are TERFs as well, this seems to be something that permeates our community because this very loud minority seems to do demonstrable harm. When I talk about TERFs being fascists, I'm not just making shit up. What I'm doing is I'm taking the clear language they're using, the newspeak and their attempt to reframe language in a way that goes against a person's experience, their attempts to forcibly change the way people are. There's a sort of energy to it. As we've talked about before, Umberto Eco's 14 characteristics of fascism are based on a sense of like almost criteria like the DSM. It's not one thing does it, but if you have enough things together, it kind of starts to look that way. A good example of this would be, and a similar metaphor would be like the Joker's weird-ass makeup thing in Batman 1 with Michael Keaton. Like, hairspray isn't going to do it, but hairspray, lipstick, and deodorant together just murder you. That's just his jam, right? So the problem is that you see them using the same dog whistles, the same transphobic rhetoric, the same incredible nonsense stuff, and we directly connected this back to white supremacy. There's a reason why there's a lot of people cataloging that gender-critical people are often anti-Semitic, racist, incredibly not just transphobic, but homophobic in some cases. It's because these groups have such an overlap with conservatives, including evangelicals, as well as any other hate group, right? This is what they do. And so I need everybody to understand this. What was found out here is demonstrably harmful. In the same way that Dave Chappelle's impossible joke that essentially made it that trans women's genitals weren't valid or real basically kind of set it up in a way where now it is justifiable for a trans woman to be treated as not a woman. That's why that joke was inappropriate. If you thought that joke was funny, okay? But what it does is it feeds into a long history of trans women being invalidated and killed. The trans panic defense exists, still in a lot of states. I need you all to recognize this shit. And in the same way that Dave Chappelle platformed TERF ideas, what this article did, and by subsequently including Lily Cade did, is platform people who are extremists, who are advocating for terror. And if we go back to Dave for just 10 seconds, for him to say he's on Team TERF, this is why we reacted. Because when you say you're on Team TERF, what you're telling us is that you're with these people. That's what you're saying. You're saying you're with these people and that you agree with their politics and their decisions at a clear level. It takes everything Dave said about trans women being women and just destroys it, just as his Impossible joke did. These threads of conservatism within women, cis women, and within the black community and all that, they all point back to the same thing. It's the same fight it's always been. It's not white versus black. It's not trans versus cis. It's everyone versus fascists. I need you guys to understand this. It is always this. There has never been another fight. In the modern world, there has never been another fight whatsoever. It is this. It is us versus fascism. Because as much as I throw that word around, I try to be clear with my terms. And the fact of the matter is that what these people are doing is asking for the same things that we've seen from totalitarian governments over and over again, where you take your political prisoners and you kill them. These are the same people who would support if Putin did this. Remember when Putin called teaching about transgender identities being like a crime against humanity? Same thing. Putin's pretty far right and also kind of a totalitarian and kind of a fascist. So, like, do you see the thread? I need you guys to understand this. This is why I say these things, because there's a reoccurring thread, a red line that moves through this whole process. And the problem is, it's not a cis problem. It's not a black problem. It's not a white problem. It's a problem that seems to infest humanity. It is a string of fascism that seems to come up in people when they are dealing with incredible stress and incredible levels of fear, and then people, namely political entities, weaponize that fear. That fear then becomes fervor, it becomes outrage, and then someone acts. This is what Trump did with January 6th, remember? So the simple fact is that, to me, none of this is surprising, and that's what horrifies me, is that nothing here is surprising. Nothing this person did is surprising to me, because at the core of being, the way this is set up, tells me that this person is the real face of TERFs. They're the real face of the gender critical movement. Sasha Ayad and every one of their ilk, it's the same thing. They want us dead. And the fact that this stuff infects my profession is horrifying. The Sasha Ayads, the anti-critical theory website, and that's gone dark, at least last time I checked. Like, all of this stuff that we cover is to kind of make an overall point. Trans identities are valid. This is true both on a professional, a medical, a psychological, and just an anecdotal level. We're just valid. And what validity in this case means is we are real. I am a woman, at least mostly. And the simple fact is that trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary people are valid as hell. The fact that these people are calling for this is nothing short of asking for a genocide. It's the same thing we've seen with other people who brought this up recently, right? Colonize getting rid of the colonizers? Weird. It's kind of a thing. So, my point with all this, and I know this has been a long-winded one, is that we're going to keep following this, just like we did the We Spa stuff, just like we did Dave Chappelle. And I really need everyone to understand very clearly that the BBC is kind of fucking awful. They suck hard. It sucks too, because I used to get my news from them on NPR, and the fact is now they're just not a trustworthy source. They're gone to me. They're dead to me. In the same way that Dave Chappelle will never be on my television because he is a TERF. I don't care if he knows what those words mean or not. He shouldn't be saying them if he doesn't. What the BBC is doing is platforming people that want us dead. So when we talk about TERF Island, when we talk about the severity of what gender critical people are, hi Bun, and what they're doing, this is what we mean. So please understand this. All right? Stuff's going to get really rough online for a minute, and I need you all to take care of yourselves. I need you all to take care of each other too. The fact of the matter is this. This is going to get hard, and they're going to keep doing this. We're making strides. We're genuinely making progress. They're going to get more and more reckless and more mask off. Take care of those you love tonight. And if you're in one of the communities, whether it's our community or Demon Mama's or whoever's, take solace in that community, right? Take solace and connection in that community, because I think we're going to need support. The last thing I want to throw out there is this, and I said this on Twitter. Deep thanks to FD Signifier, Demon Mama, Jesse Gender, Vosh. There have been a lot of people who have kind of shared some of our stuff at one point or another and really been helpful or willing to engage with us. Even Xander Hall, gave us feedback on the video when we talked about some of his behavior. And the reality is that this channel is really growing and really moving. We'll talk about it more on stream, but we've hit over 2,000 subs in a really short amount of time. We started this channel in late to mid-February and under really rough circumstances. Zena was really, really sick, and I was really, really depressed. And the fact that we've grown like this is so amazing. You guys are great, and I love this community. I love the fact that we exist and that we're doing this stuff. So please hang in there. Thanks to those content creators for platforming us and helping us. And I guess what I want to say to at least the trans people out there as far as content creators is, if you're watching this and you watch someone like, say, Samantha Lux, Jessie Gender, Demon Mama, whoever, I think there needs to be a shift in the way we do things. I think that trans identities need to have some sort of coalition and support. And I don't know what that looks like right now. Zena had this idea a while back, and I think it's a really good one. I don't know how to do this, because the problem is not all of us agree. But there is something really, really attractive about the idea of us protecting one another when shit hits the fan. That doesn't mean we have to agree with each other. It doesn't mean I have to agree with all of Demon Mama's takes. She doesn't have to agree with all of mine. And I'm not going to agree with everything Jessie says, nor the reverse. But do I respect them? Absolutely. Do I think that our community should come to their aid if they start getting harassed? Absolutely. And I think the same is true with a lot of different content creators. I think we need to get past this notion that we're all atomistically separated because of the way the algorithm and the way this stuff works. I think we have to do something and change this. All right? So I don't know what this means, and maybe it's got to wait till me and Zena have more spoons because we're just recovering from a really hellish couple months. But I would like to build a coalition of trans people online, on Twitch and on YouTube, to support one another when crap hits the fan. The next time someone like Anatomic gets banned or people flood into Twitch chats, you move all of your communities towards a purpose, towards speaking out against this stuff. So if anyone's interested, feel free to get a hold of me on the Discord. The Discord link is always down below. And yeah, I love you guys. Stay strong. Take care of yourselves. All right? Bye.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. You can also ring the bell if you want to be notified of our videos. If you want to help the channel, you can donate at streamlabs.com/transgirltherapist/tip. You also can become a patron. Patreon.com/transgirltherapist. As low as $3, you can support our channel. Thanks for watching.